Hey guys, so I wanted to answer a question that I get a lot being a forensic psychology grad student. And when I was in my undergrad, and even now, I always get this question all the time. What is the difference between social work and psychology? And what are some similarities? And I will start by saying that when I read a book, it was a textbook, it was clinical psychology, and I want to say it was the fourth edition, or might have been the fifth, but it was a book that it talked about, like, you know, the early history of clinical psychology, and one of the major topics of this textbook was the difference between social work and psychology in like the first chapter or so. And basically, social work is very similar to psychology and it uses influences on it, but it's also very different at the same time. One of the differences with social work lies in that social work is using the framework of how like the macro system influences people, basically how people are influenced by their social environment and how certain influences like public policies or political climates will influence a person's behavior. There's a class called Human Behavior in the Social Environment, which is very similar to developmental psychology. And it's not that it's watered down, it's that it incorporates a lot of different themes that are in there and it's a little bit more abstract. And that's like the key word there. Whereas psychology relies more on studies and they study the brain, and you'll learn, most psychology courses begin with like a general introduction. They go into like the biology side of it, like the brain or the endocrine system. And then you go into the more semi-abstract. You start with the concrete stuff that's like proven. You'll do the abstract stuff at the end and kind of like a general chapter encompassing like future research. So both are areas where there is a high need for and the high demand for. At one point, psychologists were the ones doing the therapy and all that, and that kind of has shifted to social workers. So now social workers are getting their LCSW, which is a whole different credential. It basically enables you to do like therapy with clients. That's one license. There's another license, which is the LCADC. There are so many different names and terminologies that I honestly wish I made like a little book to update them. And one of the key differences is that social workers usually take a populations approach. So basically, social workers work with what I call I want to say it was the big 5 populations, and one of them was the mentally ill, the disabled or special needs population, domestic violence population, addictions population, and schools population. And there's obviously more populations like children and all that, but those are like the big 5 that you tend to see. And you'll see different programs and classes being structured around that. So you can get your MSW with a focus on, school social work or a focus on domestic violence. And your purpose of a social worker is basically making the person's quality of life better. And that's pretty much the same thing as a psychologist, is that you want to better their quality of life. But with the psychology, the difference comes in you're using more of a focus theory framework. With any kind of social worker who gives therapy versus a clinical psychologist, you want to have a concrete therapy or one or two that you feel comfortable giving, such as psychoanalytic and humanistic. What you don't want to do is market yourself as an eclectic therapist, because eclectic can mean so many different things and it gets very messy that way. So you want to be focused, you want to know your theory, your framework, and you want to know what populations you can and can't work with. We all have our own, and that's not necessarily having your own biases. It's just what you feel more comfortable working with or what you have more of like a passion towards. Because when you have a passion for working with a population, whether you're doing social work or clinical psychology, it comes a lot easier. And the difference also lies in education as well. That's like the third big difference. When you're going to school for social work, you generally stop your education at an MSW, because at your master's you can do a lot. You can get a job, you can get your LCSW, LCADC, you can work in private practice when you have the appropriate credentials. Your practice and your whole coursework for your master's in social work is based off of internships, versus psychology, where you really can't do anything without a master's, and some states even require the PhD or the PsyD. And the difference there is that the PsyD, like social work, revolves around more internships, or some students, they loosely use the term indentured servantship, because it's basically what it is. You're working for a hospital or some kind of agency, and you're giving them free work, and in turn, they are giving you internship hours. And that gets kind of stressful because you still have to work and you need to make an income. So what I did, and this is not by any means a tell you guys how to do your education to get where I'm at. You can get to where I'm at in many different ways. You can get your AA like I did in social science. I got my 4-year degree in psychology, and I'm working at a program now in forensic psychology, a master's, because I do want to get my master's so I can start teaching and being an adjunct. And that's where I see a lot of people that are doing psychology. What they do is they'll get their master's and they work in the education field, such as the collegiate level, teaching as an adjunct at a community college or a 4-year university. Some 4-year universities do a program where you'll do their master's program and they cover some of the program, or they'll give you a stipend if you become a TA or basically a teacher's aide for them. And once you get that master's, you do not pay a cent for your PhD. Usually the university covers that. So my goal is to actually get my PhD in forensic psychology, but I am open to doing some classes in clinical because I did a lot of electives in my undergrad in the clinical setting, clinical psychology, forensic psychology, school and clinical psychology, as I like more of that area of it. And I love educational psychology. So you still can work in the same field and you do some of the same work, but there are some differences between psychology and social work. I liked social work classes, but I actually preferred psychology ones because I learned, and at least me personally, I learned more tips on how I can apply it to my daily life and my future career. When I took educational psychology, I actually started my work as a substitute teacher, and I was applying what I learned from that class, and I was like talking to my instructor, and I found it to be more rewarding. But the social work, I learned better skills like better interview skills. One of the classes I did that was a social work class was interviewing and counseling skills, one, and they had an advanced one, so I did them both, and I learned how to do group therapy, and that helped me a lot in my clinical internship. And the social work classes also helped me get my feet wet in the industry by doing internships that I can actually put on a resume. So if you are a psychology major, make sure you look at side classes on internships, something that is tangible and will give you some experience. So when you do your future job or entry-level job, you have something that gives you a backbone. And that's just kind of like my little general, and I know it's a little long, but general explanation on, actually in-depth explanation on the difference between social work and psychologist. And if I remember anything, I'll make like a part 2, or I'll just figure something out. Ask questions below if you guys have questions on social work or psychology for me.